Hello and welcome. Today we are going to demystify pointers in Go. We are going to use a simple office analogy. But before we talk about pointers, first we have to think about variables. When we think about a variable in Go, we'll have a name, a type, and a value. So this is a base foundation of variables in Go. Once our code is running, that variable will be stored somewhere in memory. So we can think of this as just being our memory, and this right here is our variable declared before. Now imagine we are in a busy office, and that office have a lot of cubicles. Each of these cubicles are workstations and have an employee working inside. Let's say we have an employee named John, who is an accountant. John is working in one of these cubicles. But to find John, we don't just need to know his name or job title. We need to know which workstation he's in. The workstation could be our variable. And for the sake of simplicity, let's just name this workstation John. And since John is such a great employee, let's give him the value 100. But to correctly manage our office, the variable should also have an address. So we're giving this variable our workstation and tag with an address. The address is very important because it will allow us to find our variable very easily. So we can manage our variables easily, find them faster, right? So when we talk about pointers, we can think of them as just variables that store the memory address of another variable. So this right here is a pointer, and this is pointing to John's workstation, which is just a variable on that case. We can see that this pointer variable is just have the value of John's address, right? We can also see that the syntax for declaring pointers in Go, we just use the asterisk. Now let's write some code and see how that works in action. In Go, when we declare a variable, it's like assigning an employee to a cubicle. Let's say an example. First, we're gonna assign John the value of 100. And as John have an address that he's in, we can start it in another variable. Let's print both these variables. Now pause the video for a second and think, what might happen? As we can see, the first print gave us the John's variable's value, and the second one gave us the address of John's variable in memory. So in order to create a pointer, we use the asterisk before the type, right? So we'll have a pointer type here. As you saw, this is a pointer type. That's how we declare pointer type, right? And right here, the ampersand syntax is we're gonna use that to get the address of our variable. So the variable pointer PTR will be the card that holds the address of John. So yeah, we use the ampersand to get the location, the address of our variable, right? So every time you read the Go code and you see an ampersand, you can really think of it as being an address of. So when you read the code and you find the ampersand, just think of it. It's an address of. What if we print asterisk PTR? What might happen? Pause the video for a second and think it for a minute. As you can see, now we got the value of John's variable. So in here, our pointer is holding the address of John's variable, right? But when we use the asterisk operator, we are going to get the value of the variable that the pointer is pointing to. So this is called dereferencing. And we can see the correct definition of that It's used to get the value of the variable that the pointer is pointing to. So this is what it's doing on our case. And we have to use the asterisk operator for that. We can even use the value inside our pointer to add another value. So on this case, we are adding 10 to our pointer. So think for a minute what might happen on that case. So yeah, on that case, we are not changing the value of our pointer and neither of John's variable, but we are assigning 10 more units inside this new variable. As we saw before, we can store the address of a variable inside a pointer, but what if we want to store a pointer inside another one? Can we do that? And the answer is yes, we can. So let's declare another pointer. What if I do that? Can I do it? And the answer is no, I can't. As you can see, the precompiler already gave us an error, right? So on that case, we have to add another asterisk. So let's print that and see what happens. Pause the video for a second and think, what might happen now? As you can see, our PTR variable still holds John address inside our memory. And this is the value of PTR address. And as PTR2 is holding our PTR pointer, we are getting the address of PTR2 inside this new pointer. We don't need to stop here. We can do with much more pointers if we want. So let's do with another one. This one will hold the address of PTR2. Let's do with another one. PTR4 will hold the PTR3. Yeah, we can really keep going if we want, if we need to. Okay, there's no problem. So yeah, today we have learned about pointers in Go. Let's recap everything that we have learned today. Variables have an space and address in memory. Variables also have type, name, and value. Pointers can hold variables' addresses. We can create pointers with asterisk type notation. We can also get the address with ampersand variable notation. The dereference is to get the value of the variable that the pointer is pointing to. Also, pointers can hold other pointers. That's it for today. Thanks for watching.